Graham said, "Oh!" and flailed at the water. She reached down, pulled up a snake, and gave Gramps a puzzled look. "It is a water moccasin, isn't it?" she said. "It's a poisonous one, isn't it?" The snake slithered and wriggled, straining toward the water. "I do believe it has had a snack out of my leg." She stared hard at Gramps. The boy stood on the bank holding Gramps' wallet. Gramps scooped up Graham and carried her out of the water. "Would you mind dropping that thing?" he said to Graham, who was still clutching the snake. To me, he said, "Get on out of there, chickabiddy." As Gramps put Graham on the riverbank, the boy came and knelt beside her. "I'm sure glad you had that knife," Gramps said, reaching for it as he made a slit in Graham's leg across the snake bite. Blood trickled down her ankle. I grabbed Graham's hand as she stared up at the sky. Gramps knelt to suck out the wound, but the boy said, "Here, I'll do it." The boy placed his mouth against Graham's bloody leg. He sucked and spit, sucked and spit. Graham's eyes fluttered. "Can you point us to the hospital?" Gramps said. The boy nodded as he spat. Gramps and the boy carried Graham to the car and settled her in the back seat while I snatched their clothes from the riverbank. We placed Graham's head on my lap and her feet on the boy's lap, and all the while the boy continued sucking and spitting. In between, he gave directions to the hospital. Graham held on to my hand. Gramps, still in his boxer shorts and dripping wet, carried Graham into the hospital. The boy's mouth hovered over her leg the whole time, sucking and spitting. Graham, sent, Graham spent the night in the hospital. In the waiting room, the boy from the riverbank sprawled in a chair. I offered him a paper towel. "You've got blood on your mouth," I said. I handed him a $50 bill. "My grandfather said to give you this. That's all the cash he has right now. He said to tell you thanks. He'd come out himself, but he doesn't want to leave her." He looked at the $50 bill in my hand. "I don't need any money," he said. "You don't have to say that." He looked around the waiting room. "I know it." He looked away and then said, "I like your hair. I was thinking of cutting it." "Don't." I sat beside him. He said, "It wasn't really private property." I didn't think so. Later, when I went to see Graham, she was all tucked up in bed and looked pale and sleepy. Next to her on the narrow bed, Gramps was lying on top of the covers, stroking her hair. A nurse came in and made him get off the bed. He had, by now, put his pants on, but he looked a wreck. I asked Graham how she was feeling. She blinked her eyes a few times and said, "Piddles." Gramps said, "They must have given her something. She doesn't know what she's saying." I leaned down and whispered in her ear. "Graham, don't leave us, Piddles," Graham said. When when the nurse left the room, Gramps climbed back on top of the bed and lay down next to Graham. He patted the bed. "Well," he said, "this ain't our marriage bed, but it'll do."